Hey guys, I hope you guys are all having a good Memorial Day weekend. Those of you in the US anyway, we have a long 3-day weekend, which is pretty awesome. So tonight's video is just going to be a kind of basic overview of how to set up a goldfish tank. I've had a few requests recently for just doing some really basic kind of beginner videos on, what are the things you need when you're starting out and that sort of thing. So this video is just going to be a really basic, full overview of what you need, kind of like a shopping list. And then in subsequent videos, I'm going to do kind of a more in-depth look at the different things that I talk about tonight. So this is just kind of the brief overview. So obviously the first thing you need when you're thinking about starting off a goldfish tank is a tank. You guys can look at my video on tank size if you want a little bit more in-depth information on this, but the basics are that you need, if you're going to keep fancy goldfish, which are like Orandas, Ryukin, Ranchu, lionheads, fantails, anything with a double tail, you're going to want to get a tank. You need 20 gallons for the first fish and 10 gallons for each fish after that. So if you want to get 2 goldfish, you're going to need a 30-gallon tank at minimum. If you want 3, you're going to need a 40-gallon tank at minimum. And if you're looking to get single-tailed goldfish, which would be like comets or commons, you're going to want 20 gallons per fish. So a 40-gallon tank if you want 2. For somebody just starting out, I really think that a 40-gallon tank is perfect. Anywhere between 40 and 60 gallons if you can do it, if it's possible. 30 gallons is also a good tank size to start off with. I would not recommend anything less than 30 gallons, honestly. The smaller tank size you get, the more difficult it tends to be to care for, because your one little mistake, you forget a water change 1 week or something, it can have a lot bigger effects than in a larger tank with larger water volume. So it's best to kind of start with a little bit of a larger tank as opposed to going for, a 10-gallon or a 20-gallon. So you're going to need a tank. You're also going to need to think about having a quarantine tank in case one of your fish gets sick, or in case you start off with one fish and you get another one. You always need to quarantine them before putting them into the main tank in case they have any sort of diseases or anything like that that they could bring in and make your other fish sick. So for a quarantine tank, you're going to want a 10-gallon at very minimum. I personally use a 20-gallon for my quarantine, and I think that's a really good size, especially if you have larger fish like I do. But a 10-gallon will suffice for most people. You can also use, instead of a tank for your quarantine, you can use a large Sterilite, like a storage bin. You can get them at Walmart. They're big plastic storage bins. Just make sure that they're food safe. They work great as a quarantine tank as long as you just put a filter on it and an air stone. So that covers tank. And now I'll talk about some of the supplies that you're going to need. So once you have your tank picked out, you're going to want to get a filter that is appropriately sized for that tank. For goldfish, the general recommendation is that your filter does 10 times the tank volume in gallons per hour. So if you had a 30-gallon tank, that would be 300 gallons per hour. If you had a 60-gallon tank, 600 gallons per hour. Same with liters. If you do liters, it would be 10 times the tank volume in liters per hour. So when you're looking for your filter, you want to kind of look at the box, and you'll see that they have these rating systems here. Don't go by that. You want to look for where the gallons per hour are. So down here it says 300 gallons per hour, so that this filter would be adequate for a 30-gallon tank. If you guys want more information on filtration, I did a video on that a while back, which you can take a look at. But I really like the AquaClear filters. These are awesome. They don't use cartridges, which is good. If you do happen to get a filter that does use cartridges, like the, where did I put it? I had one over here. Oh, here. Like this one. I think this is one of the Tetra filters. These aren't great, but I know that they come with a lot of kits, so people often have these. And usually you'd stick a filter cartridge in there, but don't use the cartridges. Instead, do yourself a favor and pick up some media, some filter media. Something like a filter floss like this, comes in big packages, and some ceramic media like this, which you can put in your filter. If you want more information on using media like this instead of cartridges and why you would want to do that, please check out my video on not using cartridges. So one of the first things you're going to want to get is a water test kit. So this that I have here is the API Freshwater Master Test Kit. This is one of the best test kits in my opinion that you can get. It comes with everything you need: pH, high range pH, ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. These are all the things that you definitely want to test for. And knowing these values is really important while you're cycling your tank, and also when you have an established tank. So this is considered a drop test kit because these are liquid, and you basically just fill up these little tubes with water and drop in as many drops as it says of these, and then shake it up and it will turn a color, and then you just compare it to this chart to figure out where your water's at. I recommend a drop test kit over a strip test kit for a couple of reasons. You'll see when you go to the store that the strip test kits tend to be a little bit cheaper. They're usually between $15 and $20, whereas a drop test kit like this is typically anywhere between $30 and $40 usually, although you can get it cheaper on Amazon, so definitely check that out. However, the strip test kits usually only come with about 25 tests. Whereas these bottles will last you at least 100 tests, if not more. So in the long run, you're actually going to be saving money by getting the drop test kit because it's going to last longer and give you more tests. Additionally, the drop test kits tend to be a little bit more precise and accurate than the strip test kits. So I definitely would go with a drop test kit like the API Master Test Kit. However, if you do get strips and you decide you want to use strips for whatever reason, just make sure that you have an ammonia test. Usually the strips don't come with ammonia. They're usually like a 5-in-1 sort of thing, and usually ammonia is not included in that. So if your strip test kit does not have ammonia, you're going to need to get another test kit just for ammonia. And you can usually buy these API ammonia drop test kits for about $10 separately. But it's really important to know your ammonia, so make sure that you have ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate, and pH are the important ones to have. So the next thing you're going to want to get is a good water conditioner. I use Seacom Prime, and I really like this. I think it's honestly one of the best water conditioners there is out there. Amquel Plus is another really good one, but this is my favorite, so I highly recommend this one if you can get it. I think that this bottle was $13.99. Honestly, I haven't really looked closely at other water conditioner prices, but I think that this one tends to be a little bit more expensive, but I also think that it is more concentrated, if I remember correctly. So you end up using less product, and so you basically, save money or break even over time compared to the other brands, and it's just a really good water conditioner. So you need this in order to remove the chlorine and chloramine from your tap water in order to make it safe for your goldfish. So you're going to use this at every water change. So the next thing you're going to need is a good filter for your tank. It's usually recommended that for goldfish your filter or filters run 10 times the tank volume in gallons per hour or liters per hour, whichever one you do. So if you have a 30-gallon tank, you're going to want to have a filter that does 300 gallons per hour. You can look at my my video on filtration for a little bit more in-depth information on this, but here's the basics. You're going to look at the box of the, and don't go by this, you know, this rating that says for 40 to 70 gallon aquariums. Ignore that and look for where it says how many gallons per hour it does. So this AquaClear 70 does 300 gallons per hour. So this would be adequate for a 30-gallon tank. And I highly recommend the AquaClear filters. They're my favorite. But there's lots of different options for filters. And definitely watch my filtration video for an overview of that. Oh, what are these things called? Airstone, there we go. These are arguably not total necessities, but I think that they're important to have, so I'm going to recommend that you guys get them as a necessity. But I will do a video on air pumps and that, and you know, air stones separately to talk about this a little bit more, because it is kind of a controversial subject for some people. But anyway, I really like the Tetra Whisper air pumps. These are awesome. They're really quiet. They have like these little little footy things that dampen the noise. So the next thing that I'd recommend getting is a air pump and air stone. These are arguably not total necessities for an aquarium, but I think that they're important to have, so I'm going to recommend that you guys get them. I'll do a separate video on these to talk a little bit more about why they might not be totally necessary and what you can do in case you don't want to use them. But I think it's a good thing to have in a goldfish aquarium, and so I'm going to recommend that you guys get this as part of your setup. So this is an air pump. I really like the Tetra Whisper air pumps. That's what this is. When you go to buy your air pump, you'll just look at the box, and they're rated differently. You know, some will be rated for 10 to 20 gallons, some will be rated for 30 to 50 gallons, whatever. So just get the air pump that's appropriately sized for your tank. You'll also need to get some airline. That's just this stuff. It comes in, usually comes in blue, clear, and black. And this just attaches to the air pump, and then you attach an air stone to it. And there's a lot of different options for air stones. These are a few that I have. I like these ones. These are actually from goldfishconnection.com. These are good. I usually use these in my quarantine tanks. This is what I typically use in my tank, which is a flexible bubble wand. This is the Tetra version of the flexible bubble wand. I think it's Marineland that makes a flexible bubble wand that I actually like better than this one, but it's blue, so I didn't like the color. But if you have gravel in your tank and you can hide it, I highly recommend the Marineland one over the Tetra one. Or no, hold on, this is Top Fin, not Tetra, sorry about that. And then there's just these big kind of stone ones, which I actually don't really like these kind very much. These are some of the first ones that I bought, and I don't ever use them anymore. But so the airline tubing just hooks on here, you know, something like this. And then the other side of the airline tubing would hook up into your air pump, which gets plugged in, and then the air pump pushes oxygen through the tubing and then through your air stone and into your tank. And this just helps to oxygenate your tank. Goldfish use up oxygen in the tank, and so it's good to have an extra source of oxygen in there. What you're going to need is some way to change your water. And I'll do a more in-depth video on each of these things that I'm going to show you tonight, but these are just some basic tools that you can use. So this one, which would attach here like that, this is a siphon. This is something that you would use you know, if you were filling up a bucket while you're changing your water, or if you have a long enough tube, you can run it to the sink or outside or whatever. But basically, this sucks up the water. You can then use this part of the siphon to vacuum your gravel, and it pulls the water out. The other thing that I have is an Aqueon water changer, and these are awesome. I highly recommend these. It's the best thing that I ever bought for my tank, honestly. So this basically just hooks up to the to your faucet right here, and there's a little knob that you turn on over here, and by running the water it actually creates suction in the hose, and I actually use this siphon attachment to change my water, and it sucks the water out of your tank and into your sink directly. And then you switch this little button here and turn on the tap water, and it will actually run tap water directly from your sink into your tank. So there's no lugging buckets or anything like that. So it's a really great thing to have. You can generally get these at any chain store, Petco, PetSmart, that sort of thing. There's another version of it called the Python, which you can also find. And then the other thing that I have is a submersible pond pump. So this you actually just set inside the tank. You hook a hose up to it. Hose goes right there. And you plug it in, and it actually pushes the water up, out through the hose, and out of the tank. So I actually use this to take the water out of my tank, and then I use this to fill it back up. So this is just another option for changing your water. So you're going to want to get some cleaning tools for your aquarium. You can get these sponges to clean off your glass. If you have a glass aquarium, make sure that you get the sponge that is made for glass aquariums, and if you have an acrylic, make sure you get the sponge that's made for acrylic. This will prevent any sort of scratching. I also have some different brushes that I use, and I use these to clean my filters. You know, the filter tubes and that sort of thing. This one's a flexible one, which is really nice. So you can get up into, if there's a rounded edge, you can get up in there. So those are good to have too. So finally, you're going to need some food for your fish. You want to pick out a good high quality sinking pellet for your fish. Not flakes and not a floating pellet. The sinking pellets are really the best for goldfish. So here's a few examples of what I have right now. I have Pro Gold pellets this is from goldfishconnection.com, and I really like these pellets. This is actually what I'm feeding most of, besides homemade gel food right now. I also have Hikari, the purple bag. Any of the Hikari foods are generally pretty good and come highly recommended by most people who keep goldfish. And then I also have New Life Spectrum, which are also good. See the ingredients there. And you want to take a look at the ingredients when you're picking out a fish food. You want to look for anything that says whole, whole krill meat, whole herring. That's a good sign. Other good brands of goldfish pellets that I don't have here are Omega 1 makes some good pellets. Really, I like the Omega 1, the New Life Spectrum, Hikari, and Pro Gold. I find those are some of the best pellets that are made. Not to say that there aren't other good ones, but those are some of my favorites personally. And I'll do a more in-depth video on feeding at some point, because it's a pretty huge topic. There's a lot to cover. A pellet is a good start for your goldfish, but it's not the best diet to just feed pellets. You want to give them variety. They can eat veggies, they can eat homemade gel food. There's different types of things that you can feed them, like frozen bloodworms. So I'll do a more in-depth video on feeding at some point, but this is just kind of what you need to get to start off. that some of you found this video helpful in some way. There's definitely some things that I didn't mention that, you know, generally people would get when starting off a tank, things like gravel and ornaments, you know, maybe a heater. And I didn't mention those things tonight just because I don't think that they're absolute necessities when you're just starting off a tank. But I will do some videos that cover those sort of things separately, more in depth. This was just kind of a general review of things that you are absolute musts when you're starting off a tank. So if you think I missed anything, please let me know in the comments section below. I would love to hear from you guys, and thank you so much for watching.